2, 1. Back with Brandon Johnson, VoigtJohnson Real Estate. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Bob.
Well, big things here now. Home inspections, right?
Yes.
Personally, I am a huge fan of home inspections. I don't care if it's a brand new house or one that's 50, 60, 100 years old, whatever.
Yep.
The problem, or I don't even want to call it a problem, but the instance that can arise is when an offer is contingent on a home inspection. That can cause a little worry with some folks, huh?
Yeah, I mean, a home inspection is always a good idea. Everyone has a different threshold of whether you're a seasoned investor, first-time home buyer, what type of home, like you alluded to, a 100-year home or new construction.
Right.
So it's really gauging, what you're, where you are at on that continuum of tolerance. But we always recommend home inspections where possible.
Okay.
The thing to know is it's all negotiable. The timeline can vary, so you've got to work with your agent when you're constructing that offer. Are you competing? The shorter the time period, trying to get your inspector in sooner than later can be to your advantage.
Yep.
So if you're in a multiple offer situation and you still want to make your offer contingent on a home inspection, how to reduce that risk for a seller to work with you.
And again,
well.
Brandon, in my opinion, this is really where having the relationship with your realtor, because you got to make this, you got to know about all this stuff going in, right?
Yep.
And that's what you guys do at VoigtJohnson so well.
Yes, and that's our goal. Is our mentality is to always provide our clients options and we can give our recommendation, but our job is to provide options and kind of say what are the risks involved with each option. That's how we perceive our job duties per se.
So are there some requirements, right, from the seller's perspective?
So a sellers are only required to disclose what they feel, what's considered a material fact, something that may adversely affect a buyer's use and enjoyment of the property.
Okay.
Where a home inspection gets involved is there may be things with a home that the seller's not even aware of. And so you're trying to do your due diligence to see what's involved with that home. It's very common. You could have lived in a home 20 years, but there might be things going on, Bob, that you're not even aware of, right? When people start looking, at greater detail. So what you're trying to do, and I guess what I want to kind of bring to people's attention is the different depths of what's involved in that due diligence period, what I refer to it as getting a home inspector, but that might not be an exhaustive process with that particular, what I would call general home inspector.
Okay.
So a general home inspector is going to go in and think of them as a generalist, right? They're going to go in, check out the roof, check out the mechanicals, check out the walls. They're going to look for water seepage, look for all of that. Right. However, there's a lot of things that they're not going to inspect. And so it's important to know, and it varies based on home. So for instance, there's things such as if the home has a pool, does the home have a hot tub? We talked a lot about, we alluded this to a couple shows back, but they're not inspecting the mechanical integrity of a well. They're just doing you could do a water test, but how well does that well function is not being inspected. So sprinkler systems, saunas, I mentioned hot tubs, in-floor heat, there are other things that generalist isn't looking. Scoping the sewer line. Again, most homeowners don't know the integrity of their sewer line, right? Some sellers, some buyers on a 100-year-old home, if it's an old clay tile system, and you go in and you see on the sewer line, you see 3 stickers of Roto-Rooter, they've had issues. You might want to look at that. So a generalist, the typical initial home inspector isn't going to inspect those items.
Okay.
So it's incumbent on that agent and buyer to say, what's important to you, how the risk reward, now there's going to be additional costs, but we may need additional inspections on these items.
Okay, so tell me this, are all home inspectors created equally? Because it's my understanding that there really is not a governing body that says, okay, home inspectors, you will go through A, B, or A all the way through Z, that kind of thing.
There isn't a certification. I mean, you're right. No, they are not all created. Just like any industry, they're not created equal. Most do a generally good job, but some do higher level, lower. I mean, it varies, right, in any industry. But it is not realistic to expect one particular person to be an expert in all areas.
Okay.
So for instance, it's very common that your initial home inspector might look at the electrical panel and say, I recommend you get further
Oh, sure.
by a licensed electrician, further inspection.
Or a plumber, whatever.
Exactly. So those are the things you want to be aware of, that it may require additional people to inspect or go through the home that have that qualification. On a standard purchase agreement, all it says is the home buyer has to make, they are the ones to determine the qualifications of it can be your Uncle Tim.
Right.
It can be anybody you want. So the homeowner or the buyer is the one that determines the qualifications of that home inspector.
You know, one of the other things that I've noticed also, and this happened to me, my home was relatively new, but the codes had changed. And the building inspector knew that, and so he wrote up a few things on that home inspection that I was totally unaware of.
Yeah, and so that's part of the reliance with your agent too. So for instance, any home built before 1980, the codes are not going to be up, the home is not going to be up to code. So
Right.
for instance, the spindles on your deck or your staircase are not going to be close enough. I think it's 3.5 inches now. A lot of times you'll see those things like that. Bedroom windows don't meet the code, the openings of them now. Any home built in the 70s or 60s. Now, does that mean that is that a bad home? No, of course not.
Absolutely.
But a home inspector is going to point out the things that aren't to code. You have to work with your agent to determine what's important to you. A good agent will point these things out before you're even making an offer on a home.
Yep.
But it's incumbent on you to understand that it might take a series of iterations of experts in different fields to determine your comfort level with that home.
Well, sir, you just set the table. If it depends on those agents, let's make sure we work with the best. How about Voigt Johnson?
VoigtJohnson.com or 320-774-2400. We'd be happy to help you in your real estate needs.
Brandon, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.